Hey everyone, my name is Rishabh. I am a graphic designer from India. A lot of my work involves working with 3D, working with typography, and just experimenting around with different things. And for today's tutorial, I'll be showing you all how I made this. So I worked on a bunch of more animations like this, but I'll be covering just this one animation because some of the tricks that I'll show you in this video will carry forward for all the other animations as well. And yeah, I think I'll be releasing a more in-depth video covering all the animations in the future, so make sure to follow me on Instagram for that. And yeah, so in terms of the software, we'll be using Cinema 4D and After Effects. So the actual animation making part is going to be in Cinema 4D, and all the post work is going to happen in After Effects. So yeah, let's get started. So I have a blank Cinema 4D document in front of me, and yeah, the first thing that we're going to do is actually set up the document. To do that, we are going to click on this button right here. This is the render settings. Click on that, and I generally like working 1:1 aspect ratio, which is basically a square. So in this case, the width is going to be 2000 pixels. The height is going to be 2000 pixels. Yeah, the height is going to be 2000 pixels. So we have that. Now go to your save, and first you need to basically specify the path where you want your animation to be saved. So click on this button right here, click on it, and just select the path where you want to save it. So I've already done that. And so yeah, you need to make two layers. Basically, the first one is going to be for the hardware render. I'll explain in a bit what that is. And the second one, which we are going to rename as final render. So I'll click on the hardware render, and so I've already rendered everything for now, but just remember that you need to basically specify a location where you want to save your file. So we are done with that, and this is the file that we have. And because we're dealing with typography, makes sense that we have the MoText object. Click on MoGraph and then click on the MoText object. So the example that I showed you had running in circles written on it. So we'll basically try to recreate that. So click on the MoText object. We have a bunch of options over here. And yeah, the shortcuts that I'm using to move around the workspace is 1, 2, and 3. So 1 is for just moving left and right, panning. 2 is for moving in and out. The third one is to rotate. So 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, click on the MoText object, and the first thing that you see in the list is depth, which is basically the amount of extrusion that you want to have. So we can keep it on 50 for now. Subdivision, you can ignore this part for now. We don't really need this. The text part is basically what we want the MoText object to say. So go to text, and I am going to write down running in circles. So we have that. Now in terms of the font that I want to go with, I want to go with something really bold, and I'm going to use the same one that I had used earlier, which was Monument Extended by Pangram. Okay, I have a lot of fonts installed. Yeah, this one, Monument Extended Black. So this is what we will go with. The second tab that I'll just cover a few more things in this tab. So after that, we have the font, we have the weight, we have the alignment. Don't really need this for now. The height is going to be it's basically the scale of the font. So if I increase it, the scale increases. We have the horizontal spacing. Again, don't need to worry about this for now. vertical spacing not really required, but okay, I'll just show this function which is pretty interesting, which is the kerning. So if you click on this button which says show 3D GUI, if you click on it, you can kern the type in a way that you please. So this is pretty interesting. You can if you want to kern, then you can do this. Then yeah, we'll not get into this for now. Go to caps, and you can think of caps as being a sort of bevels for your type, and those bevels will be applied to both the front and the back. So if I go to start and click on fillet cap, so this is going to apply the bevel only to the front part of our text. And if you want to have the same for the back, you need to change the end value too. I'm not going to do that. Or okay, we'll just okay. Now if I zoom in, the steps is basically the amount of subdivision that we have for our bevel, and the more number of steps that we have, the smoother our bevel will be. So if I increase it, you can see that it gets smoother. So this is what is actually happening. And to shift to this mode, you can go to display and Gouraud shading lines. I use a shortcut which is NB. If you click on NA, you'll go back to the Gouraud shading mode. So yeah, just try using shortcuts as much as you can. It'll make your workflow a lot faster. So you can do that. And we have the radius is basically the extent of the bevel, so I think I'll go for 3. And now the fillet type is basically the different type of bevels which you can have. So the convex one is the default one. Click on it. You can go for a linear, which basically doesn't have subdivision. It is a very hard cut. We have convex that we already saw. We have a concave one. Then we have a half circle. This is also interesting. Then we have a 1-step and 2-step and an engraved. So I am going to go for a convex one for now. And so the main benefit of having bevels is when you'll add the lighting and stuff, the edges will catch the light and it'll make your animation look a lot more interesting visually. So yeah, I think I'll dial down on the depth too. I think I'll go for a 30, or I think maybe a 20. Okay, we have this now. What we want to have is we want this text to actually be running on a circular path. So to actually get the circular path, click on this button and then select circle. So we have the circle, but this is too the scale of the circle is too small for me as of now. So I'll increase the radius to around 500, or I think I'll go 800. Yeah, I think this works for me. Now we want to basically tell our text to actually wrap around the spline. So there's a feature, like there's a deformer for doing that, which is called a spline wrap. So click on more text, click on this button and click on spline wrap, and make the spline wrap a child of the more text object. And so there's a faster way of doing this. So if you click on your more text object, click here and keep pressing shift and then click on spline wrap, and this will make spline wrap a child of more text object automatically, so you'll not have to drag and drop and do all of that. Now when you have the spline wrap, you need to specify the spline on which we want the text to be wrapped around. So to do that, we just drag your circle to the spline. After doing that, you'll notice that our text is stretched. And so this happens because Cinema 4D basically tries to wrap the text around the spline entirely, so the entire spline is covered, but we don't want that. So we'll go to spline wrap and change the mode from fit spline to keep length. So this will take care of the deformations. Keep the end mode to as it is. And the other thing that you'll see is how our text is flipped. So we need to fix that. To do that, go to rotation. And okay, okay, we'll not go for banking for now. I think we can. Okay. Okay, I think the simplest way of doing this would be to go to spline wrap and change the axis from plus x to minus x. So this will take care of our flip text. I think the text is a little too small for me right now. So I'll go to more text object and I'll increase the height a bit. Yeah, I think this works for me. So we have the type set. We now set up the camera. So click on this button. That will set up the camera. And if you move out, you can see we have the camera right here. We are not inside the camera as of now. So if you click on this button, it will take you back inside the camera. Now in terms of the focal length, I want it to be a very long lens. So I'll go for a, I think 300mm lens. I think this angle works for me. Yeah, I think this works for me. So I'll go back out of the camera to show you the geometry that we have right now. So I'm clicking on NA to, okay, no, yeah, to actually show the geometry. So you can see our text is like our text doesn't really have a lot of geometry, and because we are deforming, we want to have some geometry so that our text can bend around the spline properly. So I'll just show like what that means. So right here I have two cubes on which I have added a twist deformer too. So the first one is really high poly and the second one is really low poly, and this is basically for people who are just starting out and are a little confused as to what this actually is. So if I go a little closer, you can see the low poly one. So you can think of this as being a paper sculpture of sorts, where these are the cuts which are on the paper. So the more number of cuts that you have, the smoother your end paper sculpture would be. So because this doesn't have a lot of cuts, we can see a lot of lines over here. This doesn't look too smooth, and over here we have something with a lot of cuts, and as a result this is a lot smoother, and this is where we want to be. So the next step would be to actually get a lot of geometry on our type. So for that, click on more text object, go back to caps. Now if you look at the type, it says n-gons, which is the type of polygons which it is creating automatically. We want to go for quadrangles, and then change. And when you click on quadrangles, you can see that there are really weird things happening with the geometry. To fix this, click on regular grid, and this fixes our geometry. In terms of the width, I am going to change it to 5. It basically increases the number of polygons and reduces the size of them, so making it a little more detailed. And the faces of our geometry has a lot of polygons, but our sides don't, so we want to fix that. To fix that, go to object and then change the intermediate points from adaptive to subdivided. And we want the maximum length over here to be the same as the caps. So the caps is 5, and the maximum length is also 5. Now go back inside the camera. Now we want to animate this. So there are a few parameters which we can animate. The first thing we'll animate is the offset, which will basically move the type along the circular path that we have. So if you click on this button, this button is basically going to set the keyframes for us. So before we do that, I'm just going to check one thing. I'm just going to check if I have specified the correct path. and yeah, okay. So yeah, go to the first frame or the 0 frame, click on the offset, go to the last frame and make the offset value to be 100. So we want this animation to be looping, and for it to be looping, the first frame and the last frame should be exactly the same. And so an offset value of 0 is the same as an offset value of 100. So that is why we did this. So if I just play it, you can see what we have. See, this is looping. Okay. So in terms of the motion, this looks pretty boring, and we can make it more interesting by tweaking the graph a little. So I'll just show you an example of what that means. So I have a circle, a sphere, and I have two keyframes, two position keyframes. It's just moving from left to right. Okay, I'll just yeah. Okay, this is the graph that you'll get by default. Okay, so click on the sphere, click on window, and then click on timeline F curve. So if you've used After Effects before, this is pretty much the value graph. This is the closest thing that you can compare this graph to. And what this graph will do is basically set the timing and spacing for you. I'll just show you what it means. In basic terms, the flatter the graph is, the slower your animation is going to be. The steeper the graph is, the faster you're going to move. So right now we have a very boring graph. We're going to try to make this more interesting. So we want the animation to start a little slow. So that is why I'm stretching this. So we have a slow start. I'm going to select this part, drag this like this, and we are going to have a slow end. So we start slow, we increase speed, and then start slowing down again. So this is what we want our graph to do. Now if I play this, see, this looks a lot more interesting than the graph that we had earlier. And you can obviously play with the graphs, you can experiment with it. If you take this over here, so the duration of it, like actually taking up speed, is a lot more compared to what we had earlier. So you can just play around with the graphs, see how changing graphs affects your animation. So you can, yeah, just play around with this. And the shortcut I'm using to actually move through the documents is V. So if you have a bunch of documents open, you can press V and move back to your main project. So we already have the, yeah, if you select spline wrap, we already have two keyframes over here. The first keyframe is on frame 0, the second one is on frame 120. Click on spline wrap, go to window, click on timeline F curve. And if you click on this button, it will basically fit the graph to your entire screen. So we want it to start slow, we want it to end slow, and we want it to be a little faster in between. If I play it now, so this looks pretty good. Now we only have one parameter that we've animated. We are going to animate more parameters. Go to spline wrap, and we can actually tweak the rotation. So this is one of my favorite things to do. If you just take the rotation part up, you can obviously play with the graph, but I'm going to stick with the default thing that we have. Yeah, I'll just stick to the default. And now if I play this, this looks more interesting than what we had earlier. Now excuse me, now I also want the rotation to be animated, but for that I'm not going to add keyframes on the rotation. I'm going to add keyframes on the banking. So to actually show what banking does, this is what it is doing. So yeah, Go back to the first frame. Yeah, click on banking. That'll add the first keyframe. Go to the last frame and type in 360. So again, I'm typing 360 because we want the first frame and the last frame to be same. And for banking, to do that, the first frame has to be 0. The second one can either be 360 or 720. So we have added the keyframes, and now we need to add the graph to it. So again, go to Window, F curve, and now because both the things that we've added are inside spline wrap, both of them will be collapsed under spline wrap. So click on the plus button. And then we have two graphs. The first one is for the offset, which we already tweaked. The second one is for the banking. And now again, we want the graph to fit the screen. So click on this button. And we'll add the same graph or a similar graph over here. So you can see the animation is lagging a little. So this is not playing in real time. So before you render out anything, and so the final animation that you saw was rendered using an external renderer, which is Octane, but I'm not going to do this, use that renderer for today. So yeah, rendering things takes time. So you don't really want to render an animation based on what you see on the viewport. Always take out a hardware render and see what the animation looks like. So a hardware render is basically, it's basically done to actually see how the animation flows. It doesn't have any of the materials. It doesn't look pretty, but it gives you an idea of what the animation looks like. So click on the render settings, and there is a mode for that. So you can go from standard to hardware OpenGL. Go to output, and then you can specify the frame range. So in this case, it is from frame 0 to frame 120. So if this isn't changed, just do that. Change the from to 0, the 2 to like however long you want your animation to be. Then yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I've already specified the path and I've already rendered it out. So this is our hardware render. So after you have this done, just click on the render to picture viewer to view to actually render out the hardware render. And to view it, I would suggest open it on After Effects. So I'll do that. File, import, and file. I'll go find the file. Just click on the first one, click on PNG sequence and import it, and you'll be able to view the animation. So I'll do that. So you have the comp over here, click on it, drag it and put it over here, and you can view the animation. So I rendered this earlier out, and this has the lighting settings were a little different. So apart from that, you'll basically get an idea of what the animation looks like. Okay, now we want to do the lighting and texturing. So I'm going to keep the lighting a little simpler for now, and I use the same lighting settings when I render it with Octane. So I'm going to just use one light source, which in this case will be the infinite light. Click on R, and you can just set up the light in a way you want to. Change the render to standard. Okay, now yeah, I think this works for me. I'll just go outside the camera to just check everything once. Okay, sometimes you might switch off the caps by mistake, so just make sure you have the caps turned on. Okay, now for the materials, I am going to go for a slightly glossy look. So just double click over here and you will make a new material. Click on it, drag it, put it on the MoText object, and we double click on it, and then go to reflectance and get rid of the default specular. Click on add and then go to Beckman. Now we don't want the reflection to be this glossy, so increase the roughness a bit. can play with the settings a little, just see what you like. You can also change the color from here, so you can do something like this, but I'm going to do all of this in After Effects. So I just play around with the settings a little, and until you're satisfied with the results. I'll change the color to black. Not that it'll make much of a difference, but yeah, so whenever I'm going for a reflective material, I like changing the color to black, because sometimes it helps. At least it helps with Octane. So I just like doing this. And yeah, everything else looks good. Now we'll go to the render settings, go to save, and then make a new folder, call it final render, double click on it, specify the file name, click on save, and then click this button to render all the frames out. After you are done with this, open After Effects. Okay, so we have After Effects open. Go to File, then go to Import, and then go to File. Click on the first image and make sure PNG sequence is selected. Then click on Import. Drag and drop it to this button right here. That'll create a new composition with our animation in it. Now we want the background to be there, so right click, New, and then click on Solid. I'll go for a black background. So yeah, now we want to actually modify the colors that we had set up in Cinema 4D. To do that, we want to go to Effect, Color Correction, and then Tritone. So if you've ever used Photoshop, then this is very similar to the gradient map tool, which is inbuilt. So change the midtones to something like a pink, the shadows to this, and I think I'll have a yellow highlight. So I'm trying to recreate the animation that I had made earlier, and that was again rendered using Octane, and we are just trying to create the same look using the standard renderer. So now I'm going to start using a plugin which is FX Console by Video Copilot. That just makes it easier to access the different effects and presets. Now I'll add levels, and it's a free plugin, so you can download it from the website. So I'm just increasing the contrast a bit. Now I'm going to add a hue saturation. And hue saturation tool is really useful because you can quickly try out different color combinations. Now for me, this works. I just made a slight tweak. You can see the change is really subtle, but adds a lot of subtle color variations. So yeah, I think this is it for the post processing. So I'll just play it once to check. I think in terms of positioning, this is a little too up for me. I'll just bring it down a little, just center it out. So ideally this should have been done in Cinema 4D, but yeah, like this is the benefits of using After Effects. You can basically tweak your animation even after you've rendered it out. So yeah, that is it for this tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks to Type 1 for hosting it. And if you guys make anything using the tips and tricks that I showed you today, be sure to tag both of us on it. And yeah, be sure to follow me on Instagram, because I'll be coming up with a more in-depth course of sorts, which will cover a lot more animations. So yeah, bye.